now. It's time to see what stories are making the headlines in the international press. And for that, we're joined in studio by Florence Villeneuve. Hi, Karen. So we're going to start with Hugo Chavez because there's a lot of talk about his deteriorating health, or reports of it as such, and many of the papers covering that worldwide.
That's right, and especially in Venezuela, we're going to take a look at Últimas Noticias, which points out that the main opposition movement has called on the government to tell the truth, the whole truth about his health. Now, the opposition leader Ramon Abeledo, who the leader of the Table for Democratic Unity, says it's lying to say that his absence isn't felt, and accuses the government of acting irresponsibly by making Venezuelans believe that Chavez was still exercising his duties. And now, Chavez hasn't been seen in public since he had a cancer surgery in Cuba over 3 weeks ago. Now, he's due to be sworn in to another 6-year term on January 10th, but it's unclear whether or not he'll be able to attend this ceremony. So the opposition is asking the government to respect the Constitution, as is the United States. And this is in another Venezuelan newspaper called El Nacional, which points out that yesterday the U.S. State Department said that if Chavez could not hold office, it hoped that there would be a transition in Venezuela that was consistent with the Constitution, that there would be transparent, free and fair elections.
Now, further afield, Spanish paper El País is taking a closer look at just how this transition could take place if it had to be.
That's right, and especially the role of the army. It's according to El País, the divided army will set the pace for a Venezuelan transition. Now, it points out that along with the state-owned oil company, the armed forces have been the real pillar of Chavez's Bolivarian revolution. And it says that the military sector, though, is quite secretive. What's known about it, though, is it's kind of like El País describes it as an archipelago of little clusters of different loyalties. And El País points out that in a post-Chavez Venezuela, the role of the armed forces will be much like an Egyptian scenario. Basically, the military will be there to maintain order, but they'll also be the ones that are defining the red lines of just how the political transition will take place, and they'll be there to protect Chavez's revolution.
Well, we've seen the problems in Egypt, so certainly I'm sure there will be some ahead for Venezuela if that happens. And moving on now, a lot of papers are reacting to North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un's New Year address a few days ago, but still getting coverage.
Still getting coverage, yeah, absolutely. And now it was a rare address, and he called for better ties with South Korea, rather, which surprised a lot of papers. Libération says that things are shaking up in Pyongyang, and you see Kim Jong-un there dancing the South Korean Gangnam-style dance. Now, Gulf News says, don't get carried away here. Pyongyang's rogue government cannot be trusted. 3 weeks ago, the government launched a rocket, so you really have to treat Kim Jong-un's offer with great skepticism. North Korea is not wanting a reunification here. What they're wanting is to save themselves for their own survival. Now, it points out, however, that Pyongyang's ally, China, should, however, encourage warming ties with South Korea, and South Korea should do so as well.
And The Independent's also looking at those shifting policies between the two Koreas in this in its editorial.
That's right, and how the outside world should react. And it says the outside world should be positive, even if North Korea is indeed sending these conflicting statements. Don't scare North Korea off from a Pyongyang spring, says The Independent. It says that Pyongyang is being two-faced. It's on the one hand showing its strength, but on the one hand being a little bit more modern since Kim Jong-un came to power. According to The Independent, it's basically testing the waters here, and the outside world should coax North Korea out.
And finally, a bittersweet story, a dying man's wish, that's also covered in The Independent today.
That's right. Just very quickly, it's a sweet story. Basically, a man in the United States was dying of cancer. His friends posted on Reddit he wanted to see the last Star Trek that's going to be coming out in May. Now, the director, J.J. Abrams, organized a private viewing for him, so he did get his last wish.
Very sweet ending to a sad story. Thank you, Flo. That was your news update on the stories that are making the headlines in the international press.